Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another deck tech, random deck tech at that. If you've been watching for a while, you know how we do this. I go to EDH every week on Friday and just hit the rando button, wait till I get a commander that I own, and then I build a deck around it. And so that's how I do the randomizing. So hopefully, I do have a lot of commanders. I'm hoping at some point to get even more and then more and then more commanders. So I can just basically click the button and then, oh, cool, that's my commander type thing, instead of having to like click it maybe a couple times. Usually it only takes 2 clicks before I get to something that I own. And then, yeah, so that's what happened with this one. I didn't own the first click and then clicked and got the commander. So just a quick thing real quick. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Subscribe, like, share. You can binge the rest of them. We do a weekly Commander Randomonian game on Wednesday, which we take this deck that I do on Saturdays for you guys, and then Wednesday we play it with a few other people, see how well it does, see how strong the deck is, that type of thing, like test it out. So that way you can actually see it in play, as well as like the deck tech type thing. So try to accomplish 2 things at once. And then yeah, so let's get into it. So this week's commander was Vish Kal, Blood Arbiter. So I'll read it real quick. So it's a 4, 1 white, and 2 black, so 7 total mana, for a 5/5 legendary creature vampire. It has flying and lifelink. And then you can sack a creature, put X +1/+1 counters on Vish Kal, Blood Arbiter, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. Remove all +1/+1 counters from Vish Kal. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each +1/+1 counter removed this way. So basically, you sack a creature, let's say it had 3 power. So you get 3 +1/+1 counters on Vish Kal, and then you can, at instant speed, just remove those 3 1/1 counters and basically give something on the board -3/-3. Pretty strong, because it gets around indestructible stuff, so if somebody plays like one of the indestructible gods, Vish Kal, let's just say it has 6 counters on it, you can just take the 6 counters off, -6/-6, one of them, and they die. So really cool commander. There's definitely a few different ways you can build this commander. You can go like lifelink, like just like play a lot of cool life gain type stuff, especially since you're in white-black. It's a really strong color pairing for doing stuff with life. You could also go like Vampire Tribal with this. Vampire Tribal is really powerful. I've built Edgar decks in the past, and they just, even trying not to build a strong Edgar deck is so hard. So Vampire Tribal is just really good. This time I decided to go really play on the commander's sack ability. So with this deck I went Aristocrats. So if you don't know what Aristocrats is, it's basically you just play a lot of cards that want things on your board to die, things on your opponent's board to die. You get value out of it. You ping your opponents down for things dying. So basically, you're just gaining a lot of value from things dying. So, and since your commander is a free sack outlet, it works pretty well with that, being able to utilize that. So that's what we're doing. So we are playing Aristocrats. Building the deck, I think I put 10, there's like 10 ramp spells, 10 card draw spells. I think there's about 9 removal, like single target removal spells, and then 4 board wipes. So really, that's actually what I want to average in most of my decks. Like 10 ramp, 10 card draw, 10 removal. I did say we have 9. I think we might actually have 10, depending on how you play a certain card. And then the 4 board wipes, which I actually did not count Elspeth Sun's Champion in with that, which can technically be a board wipe, though destroy all creature power 4 or greater is really good. But if somebody's playing like a token theme and they're all 1/1s and they have 100 of them, it does nothing. So it's hard for me to sometimes count it as a board wipe. It's kind of a situational board wipe, but you know. Yeah, so for card draw, Bolas's Citadel is pretty good. I mean, like I said, you could take this in the direction of life gain, but since your commander has life gain, and every time something on our board dies, we're most likely gaining life for it. So Bolas's Citadel can work out pretty good, where you look at the top card of your library, and you can play it. So if it's a land and you haven't played your land for turn, you can also play your land off of this. And it's not a reveal either, which is nice. I mean, obviously, if you cast a spell, you have to reveal it, but you can just look at it, put it down. And then the nice thing is, like, because we're playing aristocrats, the way I built this deck is generating a lot of tokens. So the sacrifice 10 non-land permanents part on Bull's Citadel, it's not unheard of that we can get there pretty quickly either. So really good card for card draw. We do have a couple creatures for card draw, obviously, like Grim Haruspex. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. Midnight Reaper basically says the same thing. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, deal 1 damage to you, draw a card. Mentor of the Meek, because we're making tokens. Whenever those tokens come into play, we pay 1, draw a card. So yeah, and then of course we're playing the awesome enchantment ones too. So like Phyrexian Arena, beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card, you lose 1 life. And then Necropotence, which is one of my favorite cards that I own. So for 3 black, skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. But the cool thing is you can pay 1 life, exile a top card of your library face down. Put that card in your hand at the beginning of your next end step. So cool thing you can do with this is, like, say you have 3 cards left in your hand. Pay 4 life, exile 4 cards, go to your end step. Those 4 cards come back to you. Yes, you don't get a draw step. Well, you do get a draw step, but you don't draw anything. Or actually, no, it says you get to skip your draw step. So, but for 4 life, you're getting 4 cards, and we're going to be gaining life. So it's going to be really easy to just always have a maximum hand size. So for mana ramp, of course, because we're in black-white, a lot of our mana ramp is going to be artifacts. So a lot of the, like, 1 mana, 2 mana, so Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, Arcane Signet, that Thought Vessel, yeah. You get it. You get the picture. We are playing an Ashnod's Altar 2, which can count as ramp, obviously, because you sack a creature, you get 2 colorless. So if we're making tokens, all of a sudden those tokens just become, hey, sack this creature, get 2 mana. So that's basically the ramp in this deck, is just artifacts. There's also, like, a Myriad Landscape can be technically counted as ramp. I don't think we're running any creature ramp, like we're not running any creature ramp from what I know of, but yeah, so we got 10 ramp. Targeted removal, pretty easy in black-white. You know, you got your exile spells, Heliod's Intervention, which I just love in white, just because you can just use X to destroy X target artifacts or enchantments, so it can be like a board wipe, but also it has the key of target player gains twice X life, so if nobody's really playing any artifacts or enchantments, and you really need to gain that life, just gain twice X life, so it's really good spell. Anguished Unmaking, exile target non-land permanent. Generous Gift gets any permanent. Utter End is the same thing as Anguished Unmaking, just costs 1 more because you're not losing the 3 life. So yeah, and then there is an Alien in this deck, just in case we do decide that we want to gain a whole bunch of life, and then we can sack a creature, which is what we want to be doing anyway, and we can exile target non-land permanent. But we can only do that if we have 10 or more life, which isn't too unheard of. So basically, I mean, you can even, like, Heliod's Intervention and then Ailey, same turn, and get rid of something. So yeah, and then of course our 4 board wipes: Merciless Eviction, Fumigate, Wrath of God, Toxic Deluge, which is really good. So yeah, so that's the stats of the deck. How do we win with this deck? So I already said a little bit before, we're playing aristocrats. So how we win is we get a lot of creatures, we sack those creatures, we deal damage to our opponents. Awesome. There are a couple other ways, because I did want to kind of play on the life gain a little bit. So we do have a, where is he? We do have a Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose in the deck. So he's a legendary creature. When you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and then you can pay 5 creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. So again, if we're gaining a bunch of life, this can also just start pinging a bunch of stuff. So we can always go the life gain route too. So again, with, like, Heliod's Intervention, destroy X target artifacts, but target player gains twice X life. So we pay, like, 8 into this, right? And then all of a sudden we gain 16 life and deal 16 damage to somebody. I mean, it can be really good. So we can also go the life gain route. And then also, because we're making tokens, and because I want to piss off my buddy Bryce, who is one of the guys that we play on Wednesday nights with, he really hates the card, where is it? Cathar's Crusade. So because we're making a bunch of tokens, if we're not getting our pieces that deals damage with sacking stuff, we can just go wide with these tokens and make them really big and then just beat people over the face with them. So Cathar's Crusade, really good card, 5 mana, enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So for some reason, you go in and you're like, all right, cool, I make 5 tokens at the same time. All 5 of those tokens are going to get 5+1/+1 counters, plus anything else that is on your board creature-wise is also going to get 5+1/+1 counters. So it's a really good card for tokens. A couple cards we're playing that are really good for tokens are Anointed Procession. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. So now we're getting double the tokens. And then to top it all off, we're playing Divine Visitation. So if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with Flying Vigilance are created instead. So those are kind of our token pieces. They're really the only tokens pieces because we really want to stick to that more of the aristocrat theme, but it's nice to have a backup plan just in case. So those are kind of our backup plan pieces. Go wide, make a bunch of creatures, make them really big, maybe get them flying and vigilant, and then swing in and win. So how are we going to win with aristocrats? So like I said, we're going to sack stuff. So again, we have a Corpse Knight in here for our token theme. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. But basically what we're going for is kind of the Blood Artist play. So whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. That's also nice because whenever our opponent's creatures die, that also triggers. Cruel Celebrant. Whenever Cruel Celebrant or another creature opponent's target control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and gain 1 life. That basically is what Zulaport Cutthroat does. We also have Bastion of Remembrance, which basically does the same thing. Sir Conrad is really good because it basically does the same thing as whenever another creature dies. It deals 1 damage whenever a creature card leaves a graveyard or is put into the graveyard from anywhere, so it kind of covers all the bases there. Vindictive Vampire also does the same thing. Whenever one of our creatures dies, deal 1 damage. And then Falconwrath Noble is basically just a more expensive Blood Artist. Whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, gain 1 life. So yeah, so we're going to be pinging everybody, hopefully. We do have some sack outlets as well. Viserys here, free sack outlet. Sacrifice a creature, scry 1. Of course, our commander is a free sack outlet as well. We have Ashland's Altar, which I explained earlier is a free sack outlet. We also have a... where is it? Woe Strider, which is also another free sack outlet. Comes in with a creature too, which is nice. So, yeah. And then, of course, we got cards, since stuff's dying, we have a lot of cards that are going to gain us a bunch of value off of things dying. So we got like Black Market, which is also a nice ramp spell. So whenever a creature dies, you put a charge counter on it. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black to your mana pool for each charge counter on Black Market. So I've seen this thing get up to like 20, 30, 40, where you're just, oh cool, I go to my first main phase. I got 40 black mana in my mana pool. So it can get really out of hand quickly. Super nice. Dictate of Erebos is like kind of like a board control. So whenever one of our creatures dies, each opponent has to sack a creature. So again, if we have something that sacks at instant speed, somebody plays a creature, cool, let it resolve. Sack one of my creatures. Now that creature's gone. So definitely a good board control piece. We do have a lot of ways in the deck to make tokens. As you'll notice, there's not a lot of recursion in this deck because I wanted to stick more for a token theme, and in order to do that, I wanted to put Nightmare Shepherd. Also, I just really want to play Nightmare Shepherd, and so that's why we're kind of not bringing stuff back. So whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. So key part here is that it does die, and then you exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and it's a Nightmare in addition to its other types. So it's really good. So if any one of our creatures dies, it gets exiled, and then we create a token of it. So if someone's just like, man, I really need to get rid of, like, man, he's got a Cruel Celebrant on his board, he's got Zulaport Cutthroat, he's got a Blood Artist. Cool. Like, I play Nightmare Shepherd, and then it's all of a sudden, okay, cool, well, I'm going to get rid of them, but then they're just going to come back. So, like, they kind of have to have double removal at that point, unless they get rid of the Nightmare Shepherd. So, but then they're using that removal on something different instead of one of your key pieces that's going to help you win. So, Pawn of Ulamog is really good, because whenever one of our non-token creatures dies, we do get an Eldrazi spawn. Another really good card, especially since we're playing the token theme, is Pitiless Plunderer, because it doesn't care about the tokens. So whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sack this artifact, add 1 mana, any color to your mana pool. So again, value. We want to get value out of stuff dying. Dreadhorde Invasion is another good card for making tokens. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose life and you amass 1. So when you amass, you basically put an army token on the battlefield, and then if you already have the army, token and you amass, you just put a counter on it. So if we want to sack something every turn, we just Dreadhorde Invasion, get the zombie army, sack the zombie army, and the next turn we just create another one, and we just keep creating tokens that way. So keep getting value. And yeah, so that's basically what we're going to be doing. I will go over just a few cards that I really liked in this deck. One of them is Vish, because I really want to play this card as well. He's a new one from Commander Legends, so he's a 5-mana Planeswalker. His +2 is to create 2/0 Black Throw creature tokens, which again fits our theme because we want to make creature tokens that we can then sack. His +1 is you may sacrifice another creature or Planeswalker. If you do, you draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander. I'll be honest with you, our commander costs 7, so we're probably not going to be sacking him. However, we just sack a token, get 2 cards. That's really good. So, and then his -10, gain control of all commanders, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. So, all of a sudden, we -10 him, and when we get all of our opponent's commanders onto our side of the battlefield. So that really is going to dampen them, especially since in Commander, you're really using your commander to generate what you're going to do in your deck. So just being able to steal that from all of our opponents should basically lock up the game at that point. But yeah, so he's a really good card, does everything we want him to do in the deck. Zat's Will is another new card from Commander Legends that I really like. 5-mana instant. So you choose one. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Each opponent sacks a creature they control with the greatest power. So if somebody has like a 7-power creature, 6-power creature, they'll sack the 7-power. Now if they're tied, they do get to choose which one of the 7 powers they want. So let's just say they sack a 7-power creature. Then its second ability, exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards, then create X/0/1 Black Throw creature tokens, where X is the greatest power among creature cards exiled this way. So they sack their 7-power, then all the graveyards get exiled for our opponents. It sees that a 7-power creature, then we create the 7/0/1 Black Throw creature tokens, which then we can use to sack and get value. So, really like this card, especially if you have like Anointed Procession out, which all of a sudden instead of that 7, you create 14 of them. Oh, and then guess what? You have Divine Visitation out. Now they're 14 4/4 angels. Oh, and guess what? You have Cathar's Crusade out. Now they're 14 angels. So, like I said, it could get crazy. Or just 14 things, and you have a Viserys Seer and a Cruel Celebrant out. Cool, now I can sack them all and deal 14 damage, or even just 7 damage to everybody. So, really, really good card. I really like it in the deck. Really hope we get to play it and have it do fun things for us. Another card I really like is Alonda the Dusk Rose. So whenever another creature dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on Alonda the Dusk Rose. So it could be our opponent's creatures, our creatures, whichever. Doesn't even care if it's a token. Now when Alonda dies, you then create X/1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Alonda's power. So if we have a giant board and Alonda's out, and Alonda's like big, like so she's got 10 counters on it, all of a sudden somebody goes to board wipe, well cool, now everybody's board's wiped, but then Alonda triggers, we get 10 1/1s. So, cool. Now we have 10 1/1s. Now you gotta deal with this. So it's kind of like a board wipe security thing, where it's like, yeah, somebody might board wipe, but now we still gain some value from it. Especially if we have like a free sack outlet, because then we can just sack all of our other creatures before the board wipe resolves, have Alonda get even bigger, and then have Alonda get wiped, and then create just that many more tokens. So, like, I really like it. The last card I'll go over that I really like from Commander Legends is a new one, which playtesting this deck actually does a lot of work, like really good. It's Thalise, Reverent Medium. She's a 5-mana legendary creature, human cleric. At the beginning of each end step, create X/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you create this turn. So I'll point a couple things out with this card. First thing is that it does say the beginning of each end step, so it does care about our opponent's end steps as well. And then the other thing is it says where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. So cool thing with that is if we have like Smothering Tithe out, for example, our opponent starts his turn, they draw a card, they decide they don't want to pay 2, so they create a treasure. They go to their end step. The least triggers. Cool. You created a treasure token. Now you get a 1/1 creature. Now say we have also like Nightmare Shepherd or Pitiless Plunderer, right? Like, we have our turn. All of a sudden, we have 5 tokens. Say we want to sack those 5 tokens. We get 5 treasures. We go to our end step. The least triggers. Now we get 5 tokens again. We go to our opponent's turn. We sack those 5 we sack those 5 tokens we just made. Go to their end step. Now we create 5 treasures with that. Now we create 5 more tokens. And we're generating mana, we're generating value. So the least really good card in this deck. I really like it. It seems like it's going to do a lot of work. Playtesting it seems really powerful. So really, really like that card. And yeah, so that's the deck. We'll see what happens on Wednesday. Hopefully it does really good. I think it'll do pretty good. Like I said, we're either going to sack a bunch of stuff, wipe our opponent's life out that way, or we're going to make a bunch of giant creatures and win that way, or we're going to gain a lot of life and have Veto go off. A few cards that I kind of wanted to put in the deck but couldn't find a slot for are like Torment of Hailfire, which is an X spell for 2, which is really powerful, especially if I have like a black market out, which just keeps gaining value throughout the game. We could have put in some of the big X spells with life gain 2, but I could not find a slot really for those cards, so those are just additions if maybe you find some way to include those that I would include in the deck, just because we do have ways of gaining a lot of mana through like Smothering Tithe or Pitiless Plunderer or Black Market, so sometimes it would be really nice to have those giant payoffs with those cards, but I just could not find really a slot for them. But those are my suggestions if you want to put them in. Otherwise, yeah, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will post the deck link in the description so you can check it out as well. And then, yeah, that's it. So join us next Saturday again for the next deck that will come out. And then, yeah, join us on Wednesday. We usually start about 6:30. It's on Twitch. So it's twitch.tv/Pandorama246. You can check it out Wednesday, 6:30. We'll play a couple games. We usually play about 2 or 3 games of Commander, and we'll see how the deck does. So